We've been busy, Ger. So, fans of the show, do you want to set this one up, Colm?
Yeah, sure. Top 10 Premier League players for respective clubs.
Yeah.
This all started with a debate about Eric Cantona now many weeks ago.
Is that what started it, yeah?
Started that.
Right.
And 2 weeks ago, Shane and I did our Manchester United top 10s.
Mm-hmm.
They were analysed, scorned, or celebrated.
And spat out.
Last week, when Nathan was guest hosting, we did Liverpool. Guest co-hosting, actually. And Liverpool, and Nathan did his own Liverpool ones as well. And now John Duggan, having seen that segment, voluntarily sent me on his top 10 Spurs players in the Premier League era. Bobby Dwyer's ears are just pricked up. So Shane and I decided, well, we'll do our own as well. So we can set ours up now. And then at about 8:40 a.m. this morning, John Duggan will come in and give you his definitive top 10 Tottenham Hotspur players of the Premier League era. But Shane, I would love to hear your top 10.
We should point out as well that we chose the Premier League era because before 92 we don't really remember the players properly.
You chose to do this because it retrospectively granted you Eric Cantona into the top 10 at Manchester United. It meant that you couldn't grandfather in any players who you hadn't seen before that. And it was it's a raft of self-justification. That just I just want to make sure that everybody out there is aware that
we just need a parameter.
It was a snivelling attempt to justify your own Manchester United fandom ignorance.
Well,
that was it.
I would love to put Danny Blanchflower into this Spurs team. I really would.
Oh yeah.
But I just don't really know where Blanchflower's subtle passing was any bit better than Christian Eriksen's.
You can't understand history because
I understand history.
You can't read books.
I understand the logic of history.
You don't trust anybody.
I totally do.
With the evidence of your own eyes. You're a doubting Thomas.
So my top 10, folks, just to
is subjective.
You have to be there.
You had to be there, as Ken Doherty just said. My top 10 of the Premier League era for Tottenham, and I hope this is in order. 10, Heung-min Son. Number 9, Robbie Keane. 8, David Ginola. 7, my favourite footballer of all time, Dimitar Berbatov. 6, Jurgen Klinsmann. 5, Ledley King. 4, Christian Eriksen. And in the top 3, 3, Gareth Bale. 2, Luka Modric. And 1, Harry of the Canes. I threw Berbatov in there because he was involved heavily in that League Cup win 2008, and if you're a Tottenham fan, winning a trophy does not happen too often, and Berbatov was paramount. Scored in the final, a penalty, I think. Had that partnership with Robbie Keane. I think they were the first players in 4 or 5 years to win the Premier League Player of the Month jointly. They were like, we can't separate these two guys. They're brilliant.
Bromance.
Player of the season at Spurs for a year or two as well. Berbatov was the best. He was the Paul Finlay of Tottenham. Do you know, just a real subtle, slow movement, almost lazy look. Everything seemed like, is he even arsed? And then once he kicked the ball or touched the ball, you're like, oh, this is something else. This is gold. Sultry. Just delicate. Bulgarian beauty. That's what it was, Dimitar Berbatov. So he deserves this place. I don't want to hear anyone say that he didn't. Like, Sheringham's obviously close, and Darren Atherton, and there's others. And I'm sure, Colm, you have your 10 now.
Berbatov was asked recently, was it difficult being a footballer? And he was like, no, not really. It's all easy for me.
Sums him up.
Here's my 10 for people who can't see. Number 10, Sol Campbell. What a player. Judas, of course, as he was labelled after his move to Arsenal for a free transfer, 2001. What a player, though. Number 9, Son. Number 8, Robbie. Number 7, Dimitar. Number 6, Christian Eriksen. Number 5, Jurgen Klinsmann. Only there for 2 seasons. Actually, a season and a half, really, when he came back in 1997-98. But what a season, 94-95. Number 4, Rolls Royce of a centre-half, Ledley King. Never trained, always played. Phenomenal. Did you ever see when he tracks Arjen Robben? Arjen Robben's trip 101 on White Hart Lane. Like, one of the fastest players in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And Ledley King sprints back and gets to the ball in time.
Superb tackler.
What a player.
Yeah.
And the top 3, Luka Modric in 3, Gareth Bale number 2, and Harry Kane himself number 1. I would challenge anyone to name a better top 3 in any other team in the Premier League, or in fact any other sport of top 10s. That top 3 is absolutely phenomenal.
Who was your 3, Shane?
Yeah, I had the same 3 but different order. I had Bale 3 and Modric 2.
All right.
With Kane number 1 as well.
Did you not have Modric way further down your list at one point? Oh no, that's coming later, is it?
No, Modric deserves to be there. Number 2 for me. Oh, 100%.
So Kane's number 1 for both of you.
Yeah. He had Bale 2, I had Modric 2. And I had Bale 3. He had Modric.
I think Bale's final season and final 2 seasons at Tottenham's like pretty much untouchable. I think we actually touched on it last week with Luis Suarez' season 2013-14, where you couldn't do anything to stop Suarez if he was in the mood, and that was absolutely Bale for 2 seasons at Tottenham.
You've left Ginola out, is that it?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but you put Campbell in. Fair enough.
I think it's easy to forget about Sol Campbell, but because he doesn't help himself at all with his legacy. But like, what a player, and also won the League Cup at Tottenham as well. I believe. So brilliant defender, and like Tottenham, like this is classic Spurs. They have so many brilliant individual players, but that's also why we're called lads. It's Tottenham.
Does Hugo Lloris deserve to be?
I think Hugo should have a shout. Like, we have a habit now of picking at least one goalkeeper in our top 10s because goalkeepers are crucial to the success of the club. But Hugo's never won anything at Tottenham. No, never won anything. But like a really, really strong top 3, and like Gareth Bale is just endlessly fascinating to me. A guy who was just like, I'm not that bothered anymore, and yet still achieved pretty much everything you can in the game.
Well, that was peak. That was peak Bale, Tottenham Bale.
Yeah, I was impressed his last 2 seasons. So like those 3, and then Luka Modric, when he first signed, I think Harry Redknapp played him on the left. Didn't think he was strong enough to play centre mid in the Premier League, and only moved him into the centre because of injuries. And then you're becoming one of the best technicians that the league has ever seen. And that also coincided with Gareth Bale's amazing form.
People are like going mad. So Paul Compton says, Premier League era, what's the point? And then Fergus Keogh says, any Spurs top 10 excluding Hoddle shows the stupidity of pretending soccer was invented in 1992.
If we extended it to everything, like Paul Gascoigne would be in it as well. Of
course.
I would say Clive Allen would probably be in it.
There's loads of players.
Shouldn't have kids doing top 10s unless it's prime flavour, says Paul Compton. Paul, I would tend to agree with you. I think that the notion that history started when the arbitrary.
I haven't drank prime yet either. So
the arbitrary moment of the
back to bed.
I haven't either. Robbie Keane was classed with Spurs.
Advent of satellite TV. Is Robbie Keane really in the top 10?
Yeah, I would say so for his impact in the club. Like 6 years for the first time, and then he had a short spell afterwards. Won the League Cup with them. It's the only trophy that they've won.
I think a lot of Spurs fans wouldn't have him in the top 10.
I think he was.
I do acknowledge our Irishness as maybe shoehorned him in there.
I think he was pretty exceptional for quite a while.
John, you have been correcting the lads' incorrect lists from earlier on.
Well, I've picked my Tottenham top 10 of the Premier League era, and it's very hard as an Irishman and as a dub to leave Robbie Keane out, but I've done that because you've got to be a pro when you're picking these things, and such a great servant for the country and for the club. But most of the thinking around my team is built around the fact that under Pochettino, Spurs had the best team since the 60s. So 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, a Champions League final in there as well in 2019. And that second place finish in 2017 had 86 points, which would have been good enough to win 9 Premier League titles since the Premier League came into being 30 years ago. And Spurs have only won 2 League Cups since the Premier League began. So that, if they'd won some Europa Leagues, FA Cups, you might include the likes of Teddy Sheringham or Jermaine Defoe in there. But most of my team is based around that team in the Pochettino era.
Where did you two have Robbie Keane?
I had Robbie fairly high. I think he number 8. Yeah, number 9.
And did he make Colm's list?
He made Colm's at number 8.
And not in John Duggan's top 10.
No. So my
you can expect some pressure, some frosty messages.
Well, yeah, they're probably saying, "Oh, you're just a Clare lad." So Toby Alderweireld, number 10, always had issues, Spurs, historically, with defence, but Alderweireld rock solid with Jan Vertonghen at 236 appearances. And look how big an influence he was for Belgium as well. Number 9, Luka Modric, one of the key drivers of Spurs becoming a Champions League team for the first time under Harry Redknapp. But most of his best work as a footballer, as a world, one of the best players in the world, was done at Madrid. So it wasn't really long enough at Spurs to kind of get a higher rank for me. Number 9.
That's going to be controversial, you know that. Yes. The lads have Modric in their top 3s.
He's number 2 for me, John.
Yeah, just obviously one of the best players in the history of the game in the last generation, but not at Tottenham.
How long was he at Spurs?
4 years.
4 years, long enough. No.
Yeah, but once again, my thinking's really based around this Pochettino team. David Ginola, number 8, scandalously won that PFA Player of the Year award in 1999 when Man United did the treble. There was a goal against Barnsley in that year in the Cup, which was just off the scale in terms of slaloming through players and scoring. And that year he had 10 assists. So look, he's a Spurs player that played the way that Spurs fans think the game should be played. The game is about glory and it's about a bit of panache.
Well, he was only 97 to 2000.
I was going to say, he wasn't there that long either, was he?
No. He's number 8. But he's the epitome of the way Tottenham should play, in inverted commas. Jan Vertonghen, number 7, club legend, 315 appearances, 145 for Belgium, says a lot as well. Like, I remember him starting off at left back, but then transitioned into the centre and was such a rock solid player. And once again, Spurs have had poor defenders in many years.
Are Vertonghen and Alderweireld not just
The same.
Grant.
No,
Are they not just Grant? Like, you do have... We'll get to Ledley King. I noticed Sol Campbell is missing.
Yeah. And there's nothing to do with the fact that he's a Judas that went to Arsenal.
It obviously is, though, right? Because he's way better than these two.
That's a fact.
I really don't see it that way. I really see Vertonghen and Alderweireld were like the players who, you know, were very close to the top of the world at Belgium. Got to semi-final of a World Cup, narrowly beaten by France. And these 86 points, rock solid defence. Never lost a game over Hard Lane in that 2016-17 season. And the Tottenham of that 3, 4, 5 years is far superior than the Tottenham at any other time in the Premier League. And that's my thinking here. Number 6, Jurgen Klinsmann. So the Premier League now a global league, and he was one of the first players that brought the novelty and the stardust. And Spurs were so bad in the 90s that they needed Klinsmann to get them in 98 for half a season to save them from the drop. He scored 4 goals in one game against Wimbledon. But in the first season in 94-95, he scored 20 Premier League goals in 41 games. I remember there was a game against Liverpool in the Cup quarter-final. The ball was straight through to him and just buried it. Like, just what a deadly finisher, a World Cup winner, as we know.
I think Klinsmann definitely has this kind of weird impact where it's way out of kilter with the amount of time that he spent there.
Yeah.
And because it's funny that Modric is 9 and Klinsmann is 6. Even though Modric was there essentially 4 times longer. Okay, the second coming probably helps to grandfather Klinsmann in a little bit further. But I think I don't know. Modric seems to have become world class at Spurs. I'm lobbying here for you to make a change.
Yeah, it's like, what's it, the Dublin Mount Rushmore. Christian Eriksen, number 5, like, he pulled the strings. He's the most creative player we've had since Gascoigne. 305 appearances, 69 goals, 90 assists, the best playmaker at the club in recent times. Heung-min Son, number 4. Look, it's now a global league, and you wouldn't see Heung-min Son out of place at both Man City and Liverpool. That's why he's so high for me. 139 goals in 355 games. Won the joint Golden Boot last year. Plays with a smile on his face once again. I think really part of the club's DNA and is very much loved by the club. And these kind of things are important in terms of where you're ranking. It's not always just about the exact talent. It's also about what they mean to the club. Ledley King, if he'd knees that worked, he would have been the best centre half in English football since Bobby Moore. Never trained, a bit like Paul McGrath. Turned up, missed like 3 or 4 seasons in a row with chronic injuries. Was part of that team that reached the Champions League for the first time under Harry Redknapp, captained the team that night when they beat Man City in 2010. And 322 appearances. And also, once again, important for me, he's a one-club man. So I think that's why he's such a high rank for me. I don't think probably many people would disagree with the top 2. Gareth Bale won PFA Player of the Year twice, 2011, 2013, British record transfer fee in terms of the sale. They signed a load of duds out of it. But the one good player they did sign was Eriksen. But he scored incredible goals. He was unplayable. It's amazing the way he transitioned from a left back who didn't win a game, I think, for 2 years, into a player that was just utterly world class. And then we saw what we did with Madrid.
Christian Eriksen, even though at the end he was basically like, no, not having this anymore. I've had enough. I want to go.
Yeah.
He gets forgiven for that?
He does, because of 7 years. And as I said, most of my...
Sol Campbell, not forgiven?
No, he's Judas. Harry Kane, number 1, 3 golden boots, 267 goals, now club record, surpassing Greavesy, can play as a 10 and a 9, and he's worked so hard at this game, which I think is a bit underplayed when it comes to Harry Kane, club legend, and he's my number 1. I'd be surprised, maybe people would argue for Bale, but I think that's a pretty solid number 1.
Colm wants you to, what about Dele Alli? At one point, would he have made your top 10?
If Dele Alli had been the player of 2016-17 for the last 5 years, absolutely, but unfortunately, it just all went so wrong for him, and maybe he's just a warning sign. I don't know whether it was Jose Mourinho's warnings about his commitment, or just that he was just one of these players that just really fitted into the system with Pochettino, and he didn't fit into systems. He was a moments player, and it just didn't fit with other clubs. But it's a strange tale. It's one of the strangest tales of the recent era. But Dele for a couple of seasons was great, but I think you do need a bit of longevity. And that's on top of Christian Eriksen, 7 years. And
Teddy Sheringham seems to be one of the controversial absences based on the YouTube comments as well, from all of our teams, myself, yourself, and Colm.
Well, once again, Teddy Sheringham was a really, really good player and also a Golden Boot winner, but in a team that was bang average. So would there be a team that would be relegated without him? We obviously saw what he went on to do at Manchester United. But Teddy Sheringham also lacked a lot of pace. And when I'm looking at players like Son, would Teddy Sheringham get in the Man City Liverpool team now, 30 years on or whatever? I'm thinking like Son would definitely get in, Kane would definitely get in. And I'd be quite harsh on the likes of Jermaine Defoe and Robbie Keane, but...
And two words for you, John, as well. Dimitar Berbatov.
Yeah, well, there you go again. Dimitar Berbatov, another player who ended up at Man United and probably ended up having a better career at Man United after leaving Spurs.
But he won a trophy. See, is that 08 League Cup? Because Tottenham don't win that many trophies, do we not have to put some weight on that year?
No, I don't think so.
Keane and Berbatov?
I think Tottenham, over the last 23 years, have won 2 League Cups. Between 61 and 84, I think they won we're talking about 5 FA Cups, 2 European UEFA Cups, a Cup Winners' Cup, and a League Championship. So I just really think it's a terrible return. So therefore, I'm looking very, very closely at the Pochettino era with those incredible results in the league. Best team since the 60s and 86 points in the league, which was unlucky not to win a title.
Unlucky / choked. We should not...
Well, they choked their first year. They choked this 2016 year, definitely. But the 2017 year is just they ran into Antonio Conte and Diego Costa, who got 93 points for Chelsea.
Ask John if Dembele was close to his list.
Yeah, Dembele was definitely close. Very underrated midfielder, once again, of the Poch era.
From Barry McConnell.
Barry is just, when you think of Dembele is he was the Busquets of Spurs, right? But when I'm thinking about, like even Belgium, he wasn't breaking through in 18, and that kind of went against my thinking.
I've got an image in my head, John, of Luka Modric hopping on the bus this afternoon in Liverpool, getting the bus down to Anfield with the Real Madrid team, pops his earphones into his phone, sticks on the highlights from OTB AM. John Duggan has him 9th.
Did you do the Man United team, Shane?
I did.
Was Park Ji-sung in it?
Park did not make my top 10 of the Premier League era. But he was close. He was close. More of a cult hero. But Modric is more than a cult hero. Modric is...
I love your confidence that Luka Modric would be listening to OTB AM.
Of course he is.